Hey everyone, it's Deborah Sunderland Coaching. Thanks for being here on this webinar of how do we become a leader, a leadership, an organization that our talent runs to us. There's many things to talk about here, and I've been discussing this for a while, so just thank you for being here. I want to discuss a little bit deeper dive around how do we really get here with no blame or shame to you or anyone else, but how is this for our learning? If we don't get our learning right, we're going to keep repeating what we don't want. So I wanted to say there are I don't know how many billion people that are actually working right now. There was a study done around the world, and 40% of people are engaged or happy, have joy at work. And this is before the pandemic. And now we tie in the pandemic, and we've got extra overwhelm, extra uncertainty, lack of clarity, emotions that people don't know what to do with. And people are just their mental health isn't great for some, their physical health isn't great for some, and we are struggling to figure it out. So I want to talk about that because leadership is that we're all leaders, and it's how we show up. It's how we show up to be aware of our thinking, the emotions that come from our thinking, and how we behave. That's the kind of leadership I'm talking about. That's responsive leadership, or in my world, radical responsibility. And I believe we're all called to that, especially in this time. And an organization that runs their organization out of radical responsibility, which encompasses curiosity, joy, trust, love, collaboration, builds relationship with themselves and each other. And there is no right or wrong in that kind of organization. And most people are like, what? There's no right or wrong. What I mean by that is we all come into this world unconsciously thinking the world should be a certain way, right? Think about it, how you want the world, how you want your life, how you want your family, how you want your work to be, how you want your revenue to be, whatever it is. We have this unconscious thinking, and we haven't checked it, but we all have it around how something should be. More importantly, how I should be and how you should be. This is our default system, a negativity default system that's regulated by our beautiful mind, our beautiful brain, and a little part of it called the amygdala. The amygdala, if you're not aware, is the small part of our brain. It's very small. It's like right here by your ear. That is our defense valve. That's what it's doing. And how it protects and plays defense, like if you were a football player and you are on defense, this is how your body is normally acting. Defense, 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 to push, to protect, to defend. This is our automatic response. So we are not our amygdala. If we are aware of it, we get to choose. We get to choose what we're thinking. When we choose what we think, then we can decide how I want to feel and how I behave. But most of the time, studies show, science shows, 96 to 98% of the time, we're unaware. We're not present. We are not present. As you know, you're in the future thinking about what you got to get done by the end of the day, what goals do you want to reach by the time December ends, or you're dwelling on the past around maybe how someone should have been, and you keep feeling bad around, oh, it didn't work out the way I wanted, or if I would have only have done this, or right. This is where our brain goes, and it's a safety feature. So our work is to be present. Well, how do we do that, right? And I'm telling you, I'm practicing this all the time, just as much as you, because I lose my phone. I don't know where I put my keys because I'm not paying attention. I'm not present to what I'm doing. I'm just doing repeated patterns that my brain has already developed, and I'm just automatically following them. We have a wiring in our mind, and we build this system that protects us. And we've learned a system. Our personality is definitely a way that we are, the way that we react. We're in reactivity, reacting to what's outside of us is all unconscious. So to be a radically responsible company, a leader, for all of us to grow and learn. It's how do I come back to presence so that I can become the person I want to be, whether I'm an employee, whether I'm a business owner, whether I'm a CEO or on an executive board or whatever it is. It's how am I going to show up and be present? Now, we are not present. We start working on something. And guess how many times we get distracted? Every 4 seconds, we either go to the future or the past. It's not our work to master being present all the time. The master is the one who notices that they're in the future or the past and comes back to the present. So one of the tools I give leaders is, can you just come to your life source right here and now, which is your breath. So I say, would you here even right now, take a few deep, long belly breaths all the way in and all the way out. And do that with me 2 more times, all the way in and all the way out. Drop your shoulders a bit, loosen your jaw. And let's do that again. Breathe in from your belly all the way in, feeling like a little puffer fish. And all the way out. Several reasons I ask you to learn this practice, this tool, is because our unconsciousness that's run by our amygdala, if we're not aware, because it's at threat or defensive, our body tightens, our muscles tighten, and we don't even have the full capacity to breathe because our muscles around our lungs hold us tightly. So as soon as you take in some deep breaths, it relaxes your muscles and it resets your nervous system. Now this is science, your neurosympathetic system, which then relaxes your body and you are present to make a responsive decision versus a reactive decision. So one tool I'd love for you all to have in your wheelhouse, in your company, is to practice that. Practice it when you're not triggered, all the time when you wake up, maybe and you're shifting to go get a coffee or get your food, or when you wake up or go to bed at night, just practice breathing. So then when you realize you're not breathing and ask yourself, am I fully breathing? Take 3 breaths. It changes everything, and it's changed my life. It helps us to hear someone, because when we're defensive and we're playing defense, like if we're a football player, we're not open to hearing anyone else. We're right about how you should be, how I should be, how the situation should be. We go to our automatic thinking again. So when we breathe, we expand into a place where we can be on the offense, side. And that's what talent is crying out for. They're crying out for you to hear them. They're crying out for you to be a collaborator with them, to be on the same team with them, instead of being at odds. And most companies are at odds, right? It's true that odds around my way, your way, just do this. And the person who's being told to just do this already has a pile of stuff on their desk. And they're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do one more thing? My boss doesn't realize I have all this on my plate, but they're afraid to say anything because they don't want to not get a bonus or lose their job or be seen a certain way, right? We've learned in our world to be reactive to other people, what they think, and we try to earn their approval. This is what we all have learned unconsciously. And this is, again, the defense thinking. So our work as a radically responsible leader is to own your own thoughts, your own feelings, and your own behaviors, and to allow and raise up a team that does the same thing. Because we can't change someone else's mind, we cannot change their emotions, and we can't change their behavior, but we try to. And that's where the overwhelm and stress comes from. And it feels icky because no one wants to be controlled. But again, we do that control comes from our defense. So noticing when we're doing that, take a few deep breaths and even outing and saying, hey, wait a minute, I'm feeling a bit of fear right here, or a bit of anxiety, or a bit of frustration. I'm going to feel that for myself. Feelings only last up to, this is again, emotional intelligence, up to 90 seconds. That's another thing we haven't learned, is how do we feel our feelings all the way through? They have wisdom. Each of our emotions have a wisdom, but we've learned to stuff them, and definitely don't bring them to work. So we lost a lot of wisdom for ourselves and our people. So I'd love for you to discover, read Dan Goleman's work, talk to me about it. What is emotional intelligence? How do I gain my wisdom? Because emotional intelligence, they say, is even more powerful, and you know it even sooner than your IQ, than your brain. So I'd love for you to practice that, because people, when they're storing their feelings, you can feel it. It feels icky, and they hold it and they don't say something. If they're frustrated, if they're angry, if they're scared, and they bottle it up, you can tell when someone's upset, right? And then you kind of tiptoe around, and then you don't say something. And then there goes that toxic feeling. When you walk into an office, you might not even know the company, and you walk in and you just feel like something weird is going on. It's an energy. That's what emotion is. It's energy in motion. It comes from when we have a thought, there is an electrical current that's generated in our thought. And when that thought occurs, it actually creates an energy in our body. It cycles through our body and comes into it as an emotion, which is energy in motion. It's meant to come all the way through us. Just like when you were a baby and you were upset, you screamed, you cried, you laughed. You didn't care what other people thought. You let out those emotions. But somewhere along the line, someone told us at school and then at work, don't feel those feelings. Someone thought it was right not to have our feelings. So my toss to you, if you want to be a radically responsible leader to yourself, is get in touch with your feelings, feel them all the way through, and allow your other people, allow the people in your life, whether it's your wife, your kids, your workers, your team, allow them to have their feelings. I always say there's 3 lanes in the world: my lane, your lane, and God, the universe's lane. I'm responsible for just my lane, who I'm called to be, and what I'm here to do in the world. The same for you. You're created like no one else in all of eternity to have an amazing experience. If you choose and you're awake to, what do I want to think? How do I want to feel? And how do I want to behave? What actions do I want to take? Because there is no one else that can do it just like you, that you're a gift. And why don't we look and see that everyone's a gift? And if we can encourage this whole way of being, which I call our genius and our whole yes, that actually brings engagement. It grows revenue. Actually, it brings joy because people are excited about who they are and what they're doing. It aligns with them. They have a lot of energy. And joy, actually, I just heard this yesterday, grows revenue 3 times the amount versus a company that does not have joy. A company that's pushing on have to and should and working till midnight, which I have another story about that, because they've got to get things done. And from a fear space, a security space, a defensive space, is going to make 3 times less in their revenue on average. So I want to say, listen for how can you step into your whole yes? How can you create a whole yes for yourself and with your team? And how can you notice someone else and what they get lit up about? Where are they excited about their work? And talk to them about, what do you want to do with your life and your work? Whether it's here and you stay here, or I can support you along the way to grow in another way. Helping people to become who they want to be and what they want to do is the biggest gift you can give them. And it's the biggest gift for yourself. And I just want to say, and this soon, that I say this because I was getting in an Uber an Uber car to go to the airport on Sunday. And there was a young man, I'm going to guess not even 30, drives up with a beautiful BMW SUV. My son and I get in it to go to the airport to come back to Nashville. We start talking about his work. He brought it up. He's in the markets. He's a banker, actually, and he works for a company several years now. He said he's making a lot of money, very happy, and he owns 15 properties. He owns 15 properties in Chicago already. And here he is with a 3-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a wife at home. And he's driving Uber. And I asked him, what are you doing? What's driving you? What's your motivation, right? Because we all have a motivation. If we're not checking the motivation, it's going to be out of fear and scarcity, because that's where the brain is. The fearful mind, the amygdala, is going to create scarcity, not enough. And we can only get scarcity results from scarcity thinking. So it's really important to get that. Scarcity breeds scarcity. So when he said, oh my gosh, I just had this conversation with my wife before I left. It's a pattern that I believed growing up. My dad wasn't around growing up. And here I am doing the same thing because I just want to have, there's one more house I want to buy. There's one more property I want to get. And where do you think he's driving that from? Fear, a lack of, not enough, whatever it is in his mind, his thinking. And we all have thoughts that drive us to these behaviors unconsciously. And it wasn't until we had that discussion that he realized he was repeating his behavior that he learned from his dad to not be around for his kids. So I just want to say, let's look at the results we have in our life. If they're not what we want, it's because we're believing our scarcity thought with no blame or shame. And how can we actually think the very opposite of the thought that brought us the result we don't want? So check in with what was the thought that I had that made the decision in my life that brought me to the result I don't want. What was the feeling I had when I had that thought? What was the behavior I had with that thought? Noticing and self-awareness is the platform for opportunity. It is then that you have choice in your life to be self-aware. I want you to master, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What am I behaving? How's my behavior? If you become more and more aware of that and accept yourself that you're right where you need to be, and it's all just learning, life is all just learning, then you can choose what's the thing I most want to do and how do I create that? And when you create something new, change, right? It's going to be fearful, but I want you to listen to your heart before I hang up with you all. Most importantly, I want you to listen to your heart. Your heart is where your desires are. Your heart is going to have this huge expansion when you're doing what you most want to do. And it's going to lead you to work that's effortless. You're going to meet people that are of the same desire, and you're going to build way more because they're excited. But we tend to ignore that and think, oh, we can't listen to our heart because it's not going to get us what we want or get us where we need to go. And that's the fearful mind telling you. So I'd love for you to think of one baby step you could take. Listen to your heart today if you hear this recording, if you're not here right now, and think, what's the one thing my heart most wants today? What excites it? A little as you want or big as you want. What is it? And would you take that next step? It might seem crazy to your brain because your brain always wants to figure everything out so it feels safe and it knows something, but your brain can't know everything, can it? It cannot know everything. It's impossible, but yet it strives and strives and strives to know everything. So this is why you're just going to say, I'm trusting my heart. And I'm going to take the very next step. And again, know that you're going to be fearful just a little bit because it's new, but you step forward anyway, because you're being loving to yourself by listening to your heart. And we suffer when we don't listen to our heart. That's where we're suffering, guys, where we're not aligned. When we're not aligned with our heart and we're listening to our ego, our amygdala, we're suffering. So take one step, test it over and over again and see what happens. Let me know, give me the result you have. I'd love to hear if you just take one baby step that you normally wouldn't take. Maybe it's to ask someone out that you've been wanting to ask out. Maybe it's you're going to do something that you've been wanting to do your entire life and you're going to take one step to plan it. Maybe it is you're going to build and invest in a company that your heart says yes, but the brain says, oh no, maybe not the right time. I really want you to take that step because the way you got here now is not going to get you to where you most want to go, because most likely you've been running a reactive state, and it is impossible to step into who you want to become without a stretch, without being expansive, without having some fear. So listen to your heart and go for it. This is what I want for all of you as leaders, as organizations, and for each of you amazing people. Sending you so much love. Enjoy the holiday season. Talk to you soon.